Alright, so today what we're going to be talking about is value. So value is the lightness or the darkness of a color, and you can even do that in gray. So what I mean by that is you're going to have a light side to your shape, and then you're going to have the dark side to your shape, and it slowly kind of goes into that darkness from the light. So in order to have that, you have to have a light source. So this is what's lighting up your whole picture. And you can kind of see that my light source is kind of around here. Now when you kind of figure out where you want your light source to be when you're drawing your picture, you're going to kind of have an angle. So I'm going to put my pencil up here. You can kind of see that it's going to go to the top of my egg shape. And you can see how the shadow kind of follows that angle a little bit, right? But there's also another angle that goes from the light source on the other side of your shape. So let me get another pencil here so you can kind of see that my light source is up here, right? Oh, I get the point of my pencil. And I go to the bottom of my shape, and you can kind of see that my shadow follows those two angles, the two angles up here down. So I also want to point out a couple of things. If you're doing something that is a white object, or it's on a white surface, or it's on a bright surface, you're going to see in the shadow there's kind of this lighter spot right here, and that's a reflection off of this surface. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we're drawing. You're going to have the curve of your shadow is the shape of your object. So if you're doing a circle, it's going to be kind of a semicircle, or if you're doing an egg shape, you can kind of see it kind of does this scoop at the bottom, and that's what's going to make it look like it's round. And I thought that a egg would be appropriate for Easter coming up. So I'm going to grab my my photograph that I took of the egg standing upright, and I'm going to put that next to the drawing part. So I'm going to switch that over. Alright, so you can kind of see the shadow right here with my photograph. You can also see I have a horizon line. So we've talked a lot about that horizon line, and that horizon line kind of shows you where the wall is compared to the surface that it's sitting on. Alright, so I'm going to start by drawing my egg shape. So let's see, I'm going to draw my egg shape. Curved line. Doesn't have to be perfect, guys. This is a practice. This is an experiment. Maybe you want it a little bit pointier on top. Not very eggy, is it? Alright, maybe a little bit more pointy on top. Alright, we're going to work with pencil. That way you can erase anything you don't like. Any of your little sketch lines you don't want, you can erase that with a pencil. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where my light source. So on this, my light source was over here. You can kind of see that if I did that angle, and it shows you where the shadow is going to be on the bottom. And you can also see that I've got this curved line right here. So I'm going to kind of start there, and so I can kind of figure out where I want my shadow to be. I can also see there's kind of that reflective light spot that we talked about is down here. So that means the light is kind of bouncing off the white paper and reflecting onto the bottom of my egg just a little bit. Alright, and so on the opposite side of your shape is the darkest spot. We call that a core shadow, so that's going to be over here. Right? Now notice that when I'm shading it in, I'm going back and forth in the same direction. I'm not going to go in multiple different directions. It doesn't look good if you do that. And you also want to kind of follow the shape of your egg. If you just make it all flat, it's going to make this part look flat. So I'm going to, as I get closer here, I'm going to get a little bit lighter. So right here, darker is my core shadow, and then as I get over to the side here, a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and do a dark shadow all the way down, and I can erase anything I don't like, remember? So I've got this lighter part down here, but if I go ahead and just shade that in and then go back with my eraser later, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so I'm going to do my core shadow again, and I'm just kind of layering it until I get the darkness that I want. So notice I'm just kind of going over it again and again and again and again and again. Right, I want to kind of get rid of this line. I don't really like that very much, so I'm going to get rid of that. Looks a little bit better to me. Alright, and then I have that reflective shadow down here, so I'm just gonna, not shadow, light source, there we go. Alright, that's a little bit better. Now, underneath your object, you'll see that where your object hits the paper, there's this really dark spot, like no light can get in there. It's really, really dark where your object is sitting on the surface. And then your shadow is kind of like the shape that you're doing, but it's kind of been squished. It's been squished out this way. It's been elongated. Okay, that means we made it longer. Okay, so like this, and then again, the closer you get to your object, the darker that shadow is going to be. Now, notice that when I was shading this one, I'm following the curve of my egg, and on the surface that it's sitting on, it's flat. So I'm going in this direction of the flat surface. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fill in my shadow. And as I get close to my object, my egg, I'm going to put some more layers on there and make it a little bit darker. Okay. As I get closer, a little bit darker. But I can keep doing that until I get the darkness that I want. Maybe a little bit darker. Now, I don't quite have that reflection that I wanted right here, so I'm going to go back, kind of make a little smiley face down here. Then it gives that kind of a reflection. And I can always go back and make my shadows darker. Maybe I want to make this line darker over here. It's entirely up to you. It's your project. But what I do want you to do is kind of look at whatever you're looking at, or if you wanted to try to do this egg, that where the two meet, where this egg meets the surface, you're going to make that the darkest point. Okay? And your core shadow, of course, is going to be dark as well. All right, have some fun.